The IMF's new report, I think, admits that they have lost control of Bitcoin. I do not think that it's a coincidence that the IMF released a report literally just a couple of days ago. I'm going to put on screen for you guys right here, where they proposed the ready framework is needed to catalyze CBDC adoption. This was released literally 2 weeks ago, and then 8 days after that, we can see the IMF said once again, El Salvador, please stop using Bitcoin. I think the two are connected. I'm going to be revealing why I believe these two events are connected in today's video. But first, I just want to remind you guys by this little graphic I have on screen right now. Over 120 countries right now have a CBDC pilot program, or they're actively working on one of these new kinds of digital money called a central bank digital currency, and they want to use these to control you. Now, let's check in on the progress of CBDCs. I do not think that it's any coincidence that this website has titled this little animation as the race for the future of money. Now, what are CBDCs racing against, might you ask? Of course, we know what we think they're racing against, and that is, of course, Bitcoin. But again, let's drill down on the details here. We can see that as of September 2024, 44 countries have a pilot program, and over 40 countries have a CBDC in development. We can see that this website here looks to be a little bit biased, because have a look at the statistics that they have cherry-picked on this website right here. They're showing you in green that the sand dollar, this is the currency, the CBDC used by the Bahamas, is just growing at an all-time high rate. Interesting, don't you think? We're about to reveal something about the sand dollar that's going to potentially challenge this narrative in a moment. But something else that I think is really interesting in the pink is that this website is saying that the e-Naira, this is the central bank digital currency of Nigeria, is once again growing up and to the right. Exponential growth is what they're going to have you believe, okay? Something else here on the red-hand side of this chart. Well, sorry, it's the right-hand side of this chart. In the red, they're showing you that the Chinese central bank digital currency is once again growing at an incredible rate, okay? But is this true, okay? So our central planners are showing us that, you know, all of these, central bank digital currencies all around the world are doing great. They're growing. Adoption's through the roof. That's what they're going to tell us, okay? But what do they not tell us? Well. I think I have a little bit of a story to show you guys. The first, of course, has to do with Nigeria, okay? Now, the first thing I want to point your attention towards in regards to Nigeria is the fact that this headline here says that the e-Naira has already failed. This is the central bank digital currency in Nigeria. Now, why? Why has the e-Naira already failed? Well, it has to do with the free market's adoption of the e-Naira. So for those who don't know, Nigeria has somewhere around 220 million people in the country. And we can see here, they launched their central bank digital currency in October 2021. They were one of the first. They were the IMF's guinea pig. They were saying, look, Nigeria is this innovative, new, thriving, growing country in Africa with the best demographics. They're growing faster than anyone else. And look at how innovative they are. They have a central bank digital currency. Well, it's pretty sad and embarrassing that 0.35% of the people in Nigeria have downloaded the application to actually use the central bank digital currency, the e-Naira, in Nigeria. Now, what's even more disappointing about those numbers that I'm telling you guys about Nigeria is the fact that they even did some pretty Orwellian things in the country of Nigeria to try to, let's just say, convince the population to download the central bank digital currency. Okay, so Nigeria locks bank accounts. That's not an exaggeration. This is literally what happened here, we can see that Nigeria has locked the bank accounts of protesters. Yes, that's true. And they've actually even froze the bank accounts of the everyday citizens. Okay. So I want to show you just quickly this headline right here. Nigeria finally unfreezes protesters' bank accounts. Again, some people think that I'm just making up these headlines, okay? But this is real, okay? They literally are locking the bank accounts of people, and not just protesters. I'm talking everyday people. Let me just pull up a little headline I've got prepared for you guys here. Here it is. So this here is a headline for everyday citizens in Nigeria, not just those evil, pesky protesters who are challenging the ideals of democracy. Oh, no, no, no. You better not protest in a country with democracy. The Canadians found that out in 2022. What happens if you join a freedom convoy in the fifth most democratic country? Believe it or not, that's Canada, the fifth most democratic country. We saw very quickly, you're not allowed to protest in a democracy. We can see here in Nigeria, the everyday people are restricted to $225 per week withdrawals. No, that is not a joke. That is not me just being a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. In Nigeria, they are literally trying to restrict the amount of money you can pull out of the banking system, and they're getting converted. All of the money is getting converted to CBDC token, the e-Naira. And even with all of these draconian laws, the e-Naira only has a 0.35% adoption rate. And this is why the IMF came out with this ready framework literally 3 weeks ago, saying that we need to catalyze CBDC adoption because something is not working. Something's failing. And our plans for totalitarian control, they're crumbling. That control and that power, it's slipping away from us. And we need to close those escape valves. This is what I think the IMF is saying in between the lines if we read their most recent announcement. So we can see here, IMF staff members have introduced a high-level 4-stage framework emphasizing regulation, education, design, and incentives to enhance CBDC adoption. Yet it's all about the carrot and the stick. It's all about those incentives, isn't it? So the IMF issued a central bank digital currency adoption inclusive strategies for intermediaries and users on September 21st. This is 2.5 weeks ago. It has introduced this high-level framework called READY. So the IMF, as you can see with this beautifully little colored graphic, is saying we need to do some things to, let's say, increase the adoption of CBDCs, regulation. We need to change legal tender status. We need to change user fee structures. We need to also, we need to educate people. This is interesting. How are they going to spin this? Oh, this is how they're going to spin the education regarding CBDCs. They need to communicate the benefits of CBDCs. They need to leverage industry partners. What do they mean about leveraging industry partners? Does it have something to do with communication channels and the media? This is literally straight from the IMF's own website and their own framework for how we need to catalyze CBDC adoption. They're telling you they need to leverage their industry partners. They need to focus on the mainstream media. Why? Why? Is it because they can't have things like this happening? IMF reports progress in El Salvador talks, flags Bitcoin risks. What do you mean? What do you mean risks? What risk is there to using Bitcoin? IMF urges El Salvador again to strengthen regulatory framework and oversight of Bitcoin. This is brand new. This literally came out. Have a look at the date here. October 3rd, 2024. This was 8 days ago, and this was literally days after they released this new ready framework for CBDCs. Have a look at that. So they're telling us we need more regulation, we need more education from our communication channels and media, leveraging our industry partners. Again, that is double speak for we are going to be using more propaganda. That's literally what that says. Okay. I don't have to cut that cookie for you guys. What else do they focus on in the D? Oh, it's a double D. Design and deployment. No, you can't make this stuff up. We need to design some features for CBDCs, and we need deployment and onboarding strategies. Let's read between the lines. What is an onboardment strategy to a CBDC? Does it sound like a big stick that the government of Nigeria is using to whack at citizens? No, you can't withdraw more than $125 of your own money every month. That's the stick approach. We need to whack the people into using the e-Naira. But sadly, only 0.35% of the population want to use the e-Naira. Incredible, don't you think? Why? Just ask yourself, why is only 0.35% of the people in Nigeria using the e-Naira? I don't know. But what we can see is adoption is low in Nigeria. Let's just say the poster boy of CBDCs around the world, the first one to launch a CBDC, adoption absolutely flopped in Nigeria. There's no other way to really talk about that. Despite all of the really nice marketing that they had around the e-Naira, have a look at this. They've got fancy little tokens. They've got these nice little websites. No cash, no problem. With e-Naira, your cash is on your phone. Look at that. Look at the nice user interface. The e-Naira. Innovative, transformative, revolutionary, advance in the world of finance. Pretty interesting, don't you think? I think it's pretty interesting that Nigeria has what I believe is one of the highest rates of Bitcoin adoption in the world. So despite all of the carrot and the stick approaches of, central bank digital currency adoption and proliferation in Nigeria, they only had 0.35% of the population adopt the central bank digital currency. But what about Bitcoin? Have a look at this chart right here. Bitcoin adoption in Nigeria, 30%. I've seen other studies that show it's actually at 40% in Nigeria. Check this out. Nigeria's got 32% Bitcoin adoption. Now, let me remind you, that's a little bit of an old graphic, believe it or not. It's actually even higher. I did remember seeing another one and a more recent one that is incredibly high as well. So again, I like to show you guys the different sources. Here's a different one from 2023 showing that 27% of Nigerians use Bitcoin. Well, quote unquote crypto is the words that the study showed. But again, I don't think at the end of the day that matters. Whether it's 27% crypto adoption and 80% of those is Bitcoiners, I think it's pretty clear that Bitcoin is winning against the CBDC. Now, what else did we mention? We mentioned another, let's call it a CBDC flop, so to say. And that, of course, has to do with the Bahamas. Now, most people will remember the Bahamas from our curly-headed friend behind FTX. Let's not forget, the Bahamas, interestingly, had a CBDC. What happened? What happened to the innovative CBDC project in the Bahamas? Let's have a look. Let's dive down that rabbit hole, the land of the people who were home to FTX. Bahamians didn't want CBDCs. So now they're being forced to use them. Oh, here we go. Here's the carrot and the stick again. I didn't actually look at this website before today's live stream. I just opened it impromptu. Oh boy, let's see what happened. Oh no. No. The adoption here is just as bad as Nigeria. Known locally as the sand dollar, the CBDC accounts for less than 0.41% of currency in circulation. And the Central Bank of the Bahamas reported that the CBDC has been used less and less as time goes on. Oh boy. Oh boy. What a shame. Oh no, this is hilarious. They also cite Nigeria over here. In Nigeria, the central bank was facing abysmal CBDC adoption of just 0.5%. What is happening to these CBDCs? Hang on a minute. Didn't the website we look at the very beginning of today's live stream show us that CBDC adoption was going parabolic? Look at those charts. I thought things were good in Nigeria and the Bahamas. Look here. The sand dollar in green is supposed to be going parabolic. Hang on a minute. Is maybe, just maybe, what we've been told in the news not quite accurate? We just showed you guys. Adoption is abysmal in the Bahamas, accounting for less than 0.5% of all currency. Why are we being shown charts like this? Why are we being shown a narrative that the e-naira in circulation is just going parabolic? Same in China on the right-hand side of this chart. Why? We're being shown these timelines here. Timeline, the race for the future of money, showing us that 120 countries have these incredible CBDC projects being launched. But they're just not happening. They're not happening. CB in the chat says Africans naturally do not trust their government. Elaine in the chat says, Luke, the news line. Come on. It can't be true. Can't be. We have to trust our news, surely. Slips through your fingers like sand. Love the comment section. As lively as usual. Because I keep saying for years, CBDCs will fail everywhere. There is no way you can make that work and be used by people. It will also be hacked. The whole world will laugh. This has been my thesis. One of my best friends who I shared a home with in 2020 was like, Luke, we need Monero. We have to use Monero. It's our only way to beat these CBDCs. Sorry, I'm laughing at the chat. I've constantly remained very firm that CBDCs will not be able to be implemented. They will simply fail because of the technical challenges. The sand dollar actually went offline for over 3 months in 2022, believe it or not. It's because they just simply don't have the technology. They can't do it. They cannot do it. Our central planners are not capable. This is why they're freaking out. And this is why they're trying to create these new ready frameworks that they launched 2 weeks ago. And this is why you're seeing the IMF urging El Salvador to rein in their oversight of Bitcoin. What's happening with El Salvador right now, might you ask? Few interesting things, let me tell you. The IMF has been asking El Salvador for changes regarding Bitcoin since 2021, when the Central American country established it as legal tender. In its latest presentation on El Salvador, the IMF called for the country to also limit public sector exposure to Bitcoin. Oh, really? The public sector shouldn't be using Bitcoin? Why? I mean, why should they not just simply be able to use a money that doesn't steal from them, can't be controlled by anyone, can't be confiscated, can't be seized, can't be debased? What's so dangerous about that? Would you prefer the people be using a currency that can be seized, debased, controlled, and seized? Very interesting. This isn't the first time the IMF has warned El Salvador. That's right. We've been tracking this story for a long time. In fact, the back and forth history between El Salvador and the IMF goes back many years. I love this article. This article's a cracker. In November 2021, the IMF said that Bitcoin should not be used as legal tender. It called for something similar in January 2022. So again, this has been going on for years, and the experts have been telling us that El Salvador is going to crumble and crater its economy because of this Bitcoin adoption. We can see here, Steve Hanke, one of the world's leading economists from around the world. He came out with this tweet right here. I want to read it for you guys. Now, there's a reason why I'm telling you the El Salvador news, because something happened this week in the country that relates to this IMF back and forwards. We're going to cover that in a moment. Let's set the stage. The experts, like Steve Hanke, said, today, El Salvador is going like a lead balloon. Thanks to President Bukele's Bitcoin gamble, El Salvador ranks #1 in countries most likely to default on its debt. Ooh, okay. This is in July 2022. He's got a nice graphic. This is an expert. This is an economist with 770,000 followers that he's influencing on Twitter. Oof. When he talks, he must be correct, right? We're going to have a look at that in a moment. Let's have a look at some more expert opinions about El Salvador. Doomberg. El Salvador has $800 million in US dollar denominated debt due next year. It is currently trading at distressed levels. Price to yield at 35%. He shares this really scary chart. Okay, again, somebody who's influencing 247,000 people on Twitter. Let's have a look at whether El Salvador has entered this debt doom loop and this debt spiral and this assured default that the experts told us El Salvador would see from adopting Bitcoin. Let's have a look. New tweet came out yesterday, October the 11th. Bukele, we've just accepted offers for debt repurchase totaling $940 million. Oh, hang on a minute. What has just happened here? El Salvador accepts offer for debt repurchase totaling $940 million. Here's the receipts. You guys can see from this image right here. 3 separate purchases. Bing, bang. El Salvador's debt is gonzo. Let's have a look at this. This is pretty big. This is actually massive, 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 massive news. Really big news. Okay? Because El Salvador has just essentially ditched the IMF system. That's exactly what they've just done. They have literally just turned debt free. If I find you the exact receipt, I do want to show you guys a tweet. I've lost it. I'm looking for it frantically right now. But this is actually all of El Salvador's debt for the next 50 years. If my research from earlier today is holding up. Okay. Right now, El Salvador is escaping the IMF. They've had enough of the IMF. We can see here this little highlighted section. During 2024, El Salvador's Independence Day, Bukele said the nation would no longer rely on loans to maintain national operations. The above initiative, today's debt repurchase, follows the nation's plan of self-sustenance and escaping the IMF's financial hooks. Oh, I love that quote. El Salvador is escaping the IMF's financial hooks. Is this why El Salvador is continually being attacked by the IMF? The IMF urges El Salvador again to strengthen regulatory framework and oversight of Bitcoin. I think so. I think it's very clear right now that the people escaping the IMF hooks, financial hooks, have had enough. They want to trap countries in their wake. Naturally, people want to know what comes next. Naturally, people want to know, wait on a minute, if El Salvador is debt-free, what happens next? Will the IMF just go quietly into the night? Will they? Sure. We're going to find out whether the IMF will go quietly into the night. But first, we're talking about financial revolutions. And of course, we should probably mention the fact that, hey, if you are looking to take part in this financial revolution, please ignore the Bitcoin ETFs. They're not a part of this revolution. The revolution of Bitcoin is buying Bitcoin, taking self-custody of that Bitcoin. Okay. That's why we always encourage you guys, get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Again, there's been a lot of rumors from Coinbase and BlackRock that maybe there's been some funny business going on recently. This should, of course, remind you once again, not your keys, not your cheese. If you don't hold your Bitcoin private keys, that is not your Bitcoin. Okay. We always encourage you guys, take self-custody of your Bitcoin, and you can do all of this and more and learn about Bitcoin with an amazing application called Rhino Bitcoin. Okay, again, Rhino Bitcoin is the all-in-one Bitcoin super application. Okay. You can buy Bitcoin on Rhino. You can sell Bitcoin on Rhino. You can send Bitcoin overseas using Rhino. You can also use the Lightning Network with Rhino. Again, this is massive. Rhino is a new application. They're allowing you to use the Lightning Network. Coinbase, the world's largest exchange, has only just announced that they're going to allow their users to use the Lightning Network after 7 years of begging from the Bitcoin community. Coinbase refused. Why? They've got bigger priorities. They're too busy trying to incentivize you to gamble your Bitcoin on crypto. This is why we always encourage you guys to use Bitcoin-only applications, and that is what Rhino is. As you can see, they have a really slick user face where you can buy Bitcoin, you can sell Bitcoin. This is user-friendly. If you have family and friends who are, let's say, newer to Bitcoin, Rhino is the place you can send them. As you can see, they've got a super slick website, super slick application. Everything you need to know about Bitcoin or learn about Bitcoin is on Rhino, and we've linked to that down below in the description of today's video. Check out if Rhino is available in your area. Now, something that is 100% available in your area, and that is financial sovereignty, and that is an escape valve from the IMF's plan to trap you in this ready framework of CBDC control. Okay. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is the escape valve, and more countries will try to employ what Nigeria has done here. Okay. Nigeria is trying to trap people in their currency. And I think Western leaders from all around the world have kind of, said the quiet parts out loud, so to say. They have told us very clearly what their plan is for the future. And I want to show you a little clip of the leader of the European Union, Christine Lagarde. Sometimes people think that I'm putting words in people's mouths. Some people think I'm a little bit extreme. Okay, that Luke, the kid with the crazy haircut, he just escaped Australia for no good reason. The Western world won't surely try to steal my money. Let's listen to the leader of the European Union, see what she thinks when asked about Bitcoin. So this whole interview is specifically about Bitcoin.
Speculative asset by any account. I mean, when you look at the most recent developments upward and now the most recent downward trend, for those who had assumed that it might turn into a currency, terribly sorry, but this is an asset, and it's a highly speculative asset, which has conducted some funny business and some interesting and totally reprehensible money laundering activity. I think that there are criminal investigations that have taken place that I'm sure will continue to take place that demonstrate it very clearly. And there has to be regulations, and this has to be applied and agreed upon. It's a matter that needs to be agreed at a global level, because if there is an escape, that escape will be used.
There is an escape, that escape will be used. We need regulations at a global level. This is what the leader of Europe is openly admitting. If there is an escape, it will be used. They're telling you this is the quiet parts out loud. They plan to trap you with CBDCs. Bitcoin is your escape valve. It's as simple as that, guys. Okay. With all that said, we have 2,000 of you guys watching. I think this is the first live stream. We've got 2,000 people in the chat. So welcome. If you're enjoying Saturday, we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. We're going to be coming to you guys with a live stream tomorrow. If you did enjoy today's live stream, and if you don't think Bitcoin is highly speculative, like McLovin is saying in the chat, we would appreciate a smashing of the like button. We're told that helps with the YouTube algorithm. So thank you so much to Matthias and everybody who tuned in to today's live stream. My man, Kyle Huber, is in the house. He's the man behind the camera, which you guys are watching me through vicariously today. So again, shout out to Kyle for giving me the best recommendations for cameras to buy. And with that said, guys, I'm going to end this stream here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, hope you enjoyed this video. Stay on the lookout for the IMF. There's some pretty interesting developments being released 3 weeks before an election, while everybody's scared of these category 5 hurricanes. I don't think it is a coincidence that we're seeing all of these distractions right now. And we are seeing the IMF come out with these brand new little tables showing us how rapidly CBDC adoption is coming and how they're dropping these new reports saying that CBDCs, we need new regulations. I don't think it's a coincidence, okay? I always encourage you guys, watch what they are doing, not what they are saying. And with that said, I'm going to end the live stream here. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in.